So much pain. I feel angry. I feel devastated. And I see women stuck there. I hear the voices, the shaky voices.
Hello and welcome to Flight to Freedom. I'm Tracey Holmes. Chaotic Kabul. The Taliban had arrived. Those who'd worked with the Allied forces were immediately at risk. But there was another group too who feared they would become the hunted. They were the sportswomen of Afghanistan, the athletes and officials who publicly advocated for everything the Taliban despises. This is the story of how many of those women were rescued.
I have struggled a lot to get here. This in itself is a great achievement and not to be taken lightly. I don't want my struggle to be in vain and without any results. Help me.
When I saw that other people and other organizations weren't going to fill this hole, that's when the call to action just hit me. That if I didn't do this, then there was no one else that was going to be able to do what we did. I did not know if it would be successful.
Nikki Dryden is an Olympian and human rights lawyer. Working out of her suburban home in Sydney, she called on her sports network. From another Sydney home, a hotel quarantine room in Brisbane and a home office in London, 4 key people pulled off a painstaking, difficult, absorbing rescue mission that went to the highest levels of power in sport, intelligence and politics.
The first message I sent was to Craig Foster. I said, do we know anyone in the Australian government who can help get these athletes out? He's like, you mean like Minister Payne? And I'm like, yes, that would be perfect.
Look, I've had the best successes in human rights crises by getting out of the blocks quick and just keep on running.
The most high-profile athletes and therefore most at-risk names were listed, crucial details collected, visa applications filed through the night.
And that list just grew and grew and grew.
We know from the Holocaust and the Second World War that when people were trying to get out of dangerous situations, they needed documents, they needed papers. That governments are bureaucracies and they like paper. So that preparation, even though it seems ridiculous, is vital.
I remember thinking the missing link here is we don't have anyone inside. We needed somebody, and that was the missing link. And when I got the call from Neil, it was his sort of different level of thinking, the defense, the intelligence. It was that we were missing in our amazing team.
Neil Fergus has had a career in security, intelligence and anti-terrorism. He's plugged into the sports network too, having provided security planning for some of the largest international events.
Our job is a functional job. It's what we as a team do in high-risk environments. It's getting people to safety. But we can't get people to safety without the documentation, without the political will, but talking them through the checkpoints, through the Taliban, telling them turn left, don't go straight ahead, don't continue that way, or stop and retreat, and bringing them to a point where they can be extracted by the heroic men and women of the Australian Defence Forces.
Convincing these at-risk women to travel through Taliban-controlled checkpoints to get themselves to the front of thousands of others pushing frantically at the airport boundaries was a relentless 24/7 task. All of this done remotely, by phone, sometimes a call, mostly by message, with GPS pin drops to the Defence Force inside and an unnamed corporal who never gave up.
We had a person in 4 or 5 different time zones, so we could tag team. So there was never a moment when we weren't responsive. You had to be there all the time because they were there all the time.
Where are they? Urgent location update, please.
Found them. Phone lines keep dropping out.
need a patrol vehicle to volunteer to collect them.
Photo sent with location. Athletes close to exhaustion.
Location identified. Risk is escalated.
They are not close enough. They must advance any way they can. Defence personnel cannot exit perimeter to escort.
Tell them to do whatever is necessary to get out to the gate. Time is running out.
Okay, I'm on it.
They were on the phone begging for help, and we just had to say to them, you have to fight. You have to get through that crowd, because if you don't get to the other end, we don't know what's going to happen.
Two stories stood out. The two Paralympic athletes who, beyond all reason, still believed they could get to Tokyo to compete. And one group dubbed the Karate family.
They spent 5 days. They spent 100 hours with 3 children under 10 and one who is 2 years trying to get into that airport.
The mother is the Afghan karate champion. She, her husband and 3 small children tried repeatedly to get to that point of safety with us. And at different times they were repelled physically by Taliban, beaten.
I said to that father about, this is the last chance, and he said, Ali, they're beating me. I was like, it's just a flesh wound. You must keep going. Ali, I'm near the troops. They've pepper sprayed me. You're not in the ditch. Get in the ditch. It's a sewer. Stand in. I mean, it was horrendous on so many different levels. They said, look, we're in the ditch. My daughter's unconscious. We cannot go back because we know the Taliban are behind us now. I mean, what do you say? And then they get into the airport and their paperwork hasn't come through into the system, so the Australians reject them, send them to the Americans to be thrown out. Thank goodness we had a corporal that was helping us pull people out of the ditch. He took time away from that to then go rescue the family again.
Paralympic hopefuls Zakia Khudadadi and Hossain Rasouli were close to quitting. Zakia captured in this ITV story close to exhaustion.
There was one person helping them by that point. The rest of the National Paralympic Committee had abandoned them.
We had very difficult days and nights spent at the airport. It was a very difficult situation. We were under so much pressure and stress.
The team's chef de mission, Arian Sadiqi, was in London, desperately trying to help his athletes. He sent out an urgent plea to his brother in Kabul to help.
I said, sorry, if it's going to the airport, I'm not going to go, because I've been there 3 days sleeping at the airport gates, sleeping in the mosque, no breakfast, no lunch. The foreign troop wouldn't let them to go on the plane. So he said, I'm exhausted, I'm drained, there's no way that I have to go. I was like, oh my God, no, you can't do this to me. And there's only hope. So somehow we pushed him, you're the captain now, please, because you know the gates, you know, it's been 3 days in and out, he knew all the gates.
I had made them go from one gate to the next. There were sentry points, there was Afghan soldiers, there was Taliban soldiers, there was foreign military. It was very, very complicated and difficult. I got a message from one of them and it just said, help.
They'd been turned back by the British and were close to giving up.
I remembered Anna's message from the British Paralympic Association, and I asked her, I said, please, can you help us? Because our athletes are literally behind the British gates. She passed and she messaged to Secretary General of the GB Paralympics. He went back to the UK ambassador to contact him directly. Suddenly the gate were open, they were in.
So when they finally made it in to the airport, for me, that was one of the most extraordinary moments, seeing pictures of them safe, because, what they went through as people with disability, me telling them things like, yell out and make yourself be seen, is not something that they have spent their life doing.
I started calling on the WhatsApp, hey, everybody's shouting, celebrating, the team, we're all happy.
These people were not soft. These people knew, in most cases, they had one chance at a future. And the last people that got on the last RAAF flight out of Kabul, she had a 3-year-old child, her phone went flat right at the last moment. ADF searched that airfield and found them and held the last RAAF evacuation flight to put them on board. That woman and her child are now on their way to rejoin her husband. That's what Australians do.
Zakia and Hossain made it out of Kabul and eventually to Tokyo to realise their dreams of competing at the Paralympic Games. But they're very aware of those who have been left behind.
I feel the goodness and happiness awaits us, the good life, but we'd be much more happy to have our family next to us because we are here and our hearts are there. It is difficult.
I am happy. My family would be happy if they could get out, but there are thousands of other Paralympians still in Afghanistan, so it's a dream for them to be in a safe environment too. I'm thinking of them too.
The only people who got out, and tragically this is the reality in the world, are the people who had someone advocating for them. And there are thousands left behind.
I am acutely aware of the people that didn't make it. I'm acutely aware of the families that were left in the ditch and were so close. I'm acutely aware of people who weren't able to get assistance if and when they needed it or go through this process. So I go through periods of great joy of what occurred, but then great sadness over who was left behind.
And we really hope that everybody now will join us in supporting them and cushioning what is going to be a hard landing for them. People got themselves out and we played a teeny tiny part.
We had 5 countries talking about operations to come and extract. Nobody came and saved them. They saved themselves.
For those rescued, a new life begins. Yet tragically, almost daily, the pleas continue to come.
Day by day, the situation is getting harder. So I just wanted to check with you if there is any chance if they can help us in evacuation to any country. Because we are in a very difficult situation. Hope or any assistance.